Welcome to Comics Bazaar, the channel of comics commentary and arcana. This video features Wolverine number 49, cover dated December 1991. The cover is by Marc Silvestri, featuring a ferocious looking Wolverine there, front and center. And then up on this hill in the background, we've got Jean Grey in her new costume, designed by Jim Lee for X-Men number 1, and of course Professor X there. And this, I think, is the first comic in which Marc Silvestri, who is and was at this point renowned for a 4-year run on Uncanny X-Men, is the first time he's drawn Professor X, because during his time on X-Men, mostly the Outback era, the Professor was away with Lilandra in the Shi'ar Empire, but now he's back in the continuity again. And so we get to see Silvestri's version. Now this cover is penciled and inked by Silvestri. It looks to me like Silvestri was using a brush inking this. I always prefer, and I always say it, an artist who inks his own pencils. And what he's drawing on here in terms of the imagery, these spikes and spines and thorns, is derived from Barry Windsor Smith's Weapon X. And this is, in effect, a type of sequel to Windsor Smith's Weapon X, which concluded earlier in 1991. So the cover caption, guest starring Jean Grey and Professor X, and also the journey continues, if my life be a lie. And this is part 2 of the Shiva scenario. So let's open this one up to the first page. We don't get a splash, but we do get a big anchor image of Wolverine in the brown and orange costume designed by John Byrne, just as Jim Lee is about to get rid of it and go back to the Dave Cockrum, or rather actually John Romita Sr. designed blue and yellow costume. And the location of this is the X-Mansion, 1407 Graymalkin Lane, Salem Center, New York. Ostensibly the Xavier School for Gifted Youngsters, and of course Professor X is back, but in actuality the headquarters of a secret band of mutants known as the X-Men, where 3 of that number have gathered to solve a decades-old mystery, and that mystery is to do with Wolverine's origins. So we get, as I said there, a look at Silvestri's version of Professor X. He has him in a polo shirt here, a black polo, or not a polo shirt, but rather a black polo neck jumper. And we get to see his version of the Jim Lee designed Shi'ar Tech wheelchair. But what my eye is drawn to here is this little piece of furniture over in the corner. This little, it looks like a Louis XIV designed little table. And of course we've got a bowl of flowers on top of it. But what I'm really taken by is the tablecloth and the corners of the tablecloth hanging over the edge of the tabletop. That's really, really great. Just that little attention to detail, bringing alive the decor of Professor Xavier's mansion. I like that from Silvestri. That's thoughtful, really thoughtful stuff. So there's a secret doorway that they're going to go through. And what they're about, the 2 telepaths of the X-Men, is to help Logan with his memories. And the professor says to him, the transition from actual reality to the perceptual reality to the memory matrix is imperceptible, Logan, because in fact this is already in Logan's head. This is taking place. So the title of the story, Dreams of Gore, so play on words there. Phase 2, remembrance, of things past, because everything is very muddied in Logan's mixed up memories. And so we're going to get some teases in terms of his background and origin and his relation to Sabretooth and their time together on some kind of secret covert government team, but we're never quite sure exactly what is truth and what is manipulated illusion, going back to Experiment X, the Weapon X program. Creative team here, Larry Hama script, Marc Silvestri pencils, and 2 inkers, Dan Green and Hilary Barta. That's an indication that there was a little bit of a deadline crunch on getting this one to the printers. Inks, Pat Brousseau on lettering, Steve Buccellotto on colouring rounds out the creative team. So let's turn the page and see Logan walking through the door that he's never seen before. So the mental landscape has begun, and we get this nice little transition here of Logan in his brown and orange costume into the beast that he was in Experiment X, the Weapon X program. So we see Silvestri's version once again of Barry Windsor Smith's version of Logan in the Weapon X program, covered in those tubes and batteries and pieces of machinery, and looking incredibly bestial and ferocious there, really pumped up in terms of his muscles, and those red eyes, meaning that he's seeing red, he's in a bloodlust berserker fury, the animal is unleashed. And so yeah, here we go. What is true memory and what is an illusion? And here we see Silvestri's version of a scene from Windsor Smith's Weapon X, where Logan was free and taking on all the wranglers and security of the Experiment X program. Really ferocious yell there from this animalistic version of Wolverine. And we're getting his thoughts also as he's seeing this in his mind. No, this is not real, not time displacement, just memory. I'm here to find something. So there's confusion for Logan. And again, just great images here of Silvestri inspired by Barry Windsor Smith's Weapon X comics. And Logan in his first person narration continues saying, not to relive the past, if this really is my past, can't let myself slip back into mindless berserker state. Have to take control, too much to find out. What did Xavier say? Symbolic doors, this one's solid as a bank vault. So what's on the other side of that symbolic door? Well, let's continue and see that on the other side of the door is this Shiva business. Shiva, no access without clearance. Wolverine's tapping, or is he tapping on the door, or is there something on the other side of the door tapping, perhaps? He says, in the memory, not even adamantium claws are going to slice through this. Oh, so he's tapping at the metallic locked door. And then behind him, he hears running footsteps. It's security goons, he thinks. No, it's Sabretooth. There you are, he says. I've been scouring half of the Sierra Maestra looking for you. So where are they? There's no Sierra Maestra in Canada. Nobody tells us nothing out here in the boonies, he says. I just got word from Havana. President Kennedy's been shot. It happened 2 days ago and I just found out. So that's putting us all the way back in 1963. Follow me, partner. I know a cantina where they got a TV set. Probably the only TV in the whole town of Palma Soriano. So Logan there wondering, Sabretooth? Great anchor image of Sabretooth running there with what looks like a Kalashnikov and dressed in Cuban army fatigues. So the implication is they were in some kind of covert operation in Cuba. For which government? For the US government. So Sabretooth goes through the door. Logan follows him, and basically we get this little exchange about different code names. Wrong code name, replies Sabretooth. I'm El Tigre on this operation. And my code name, asks Logan, Emilio Gara. So then he walks through the doorway and his whole outfit is changed and he's looking a lot like Che Guevara there. There's the newscast on the TV in the cantina in Spanish. This is the Cuban People's News Service with the latest update on the so-called assassination in Dallas of the criminal Kennedy. So we're seeing it from Fidel Castro's point of view, what happened in Dallas. The accused gunman, Lee Harvey Oswald, is now being transferred from the Dallas police headquarters. Sabretooth says, they really did it. They went ahead and did it. And they got a red herring to take the fall. So the implication is the Kennedy assassination was a secret government agency job, perhaps the agency that Logan and Creed are operatives of, is the implication of all of this. But remember, the whole context is what is true memory and what is an implant of the Weapon X, Experiment X program. So Logan asks here, Oswald didn't pull the trigger. They're speaking in Spanish the whole time, but Sabretooth responds in English. You're joking, right? And Logan says, as he smokes his cigar nonchalantly, you know what this means? Sabretooth continues and says, you know what this means? Now it's our turn. We got to do our job. And what is it? That they're going to assassinate Castro? Is that what they're talking about? And then we see on the TV screen what happened in history. Lee Harvey Oswald being shot, and Sabretooth kicking off here. That really tears it, he exclaims. Come on, compadre, we gotta go work. And Logan responds, cool it, Julio, you're mouthing off in English. And that blows their cover. So in comes a whole squad of Cuban army soldiers. There they are, says one of them, the leader. The two Yankee spies that Indio informer told us about, El Tigre and Gata. So they're going to shoot them. So we get a shootout in the cantina. Really great action sequence there. I love the way that both Sabretooth and Logan are jumping over the other side of the bar counter for cover. That's really nicely done by Silvestri in the art. And Logan says to Sabretooth, he called us Yanks. Doesn't he know we're Canadians? Canucks, replies Sabretooth. You're a real bundle of laughs today, partner. So what does that mean? Does it mean that they're not actually Canadian originally? What's going on? So Sabretooth then says, you take a strategic withdrawal through the back door when I pop up and hose him down with the Thompson gun. So let's see what happens here. Turn the page. Yeah, Sabretooth is blasting away with that machine gun. It's rat-a-tat-tatting there in the sound effect lettering. And Logan goes through the back door. Sabretooth calls it the extraction point. Tried to make it to Gitmo, Guantanamo Bay. So Logan goes through the doorway. And he's saying, the back door, where does it really lead to? And he's back in his brown and orange costume. And he's in this really wild looking corridor with all of these wonky doors, and it's like something out of Willy Wonka's chocolate factory in a way. Looks like the sort of place a fella could run into Rod Serling in, him or the Crypt Keeper. So a reference there to the Twilight Zone. Some of these doors look like they're from mansions, and some look like they're from log cabins. And he sees scored on one of them, Logan and Silver Fox. So this is a call back to Chris Claremont, John Buscema, and Bill Sienkiewicz's classic issue 10 of this very title, Wolverine number 10. Lord, thinks Wolverine, the memory comes flashing back like sunlight through the clouds. It was springtime when I carved that. Springtime for me and Silver Fox. Carved it with my father's old knife. My father, he begins, why won't the rest of that memory come through? What's behind this door? So he opens another one of these creaking symbolic doors. There's nothing there. And outside we have Jean and the professor watching, observing Logan as he goes through these symbolic doors in his memory. So he's banging on the door there, and it looks like the professor says to him, don't give in mindless gestures, Wolverine. Don't give in to mindless gestures, I would say. That's supposed to read. So Wolverine turns his head, he sees them. That blank door is a manifestation of blocks deliberately put into your memory, says the professor. Certain data has been sealed off. Some of what you perceive to be real memories may very well be artificial implants with hidden triggers. This is getting too dangerous, says the professor in his black polo neck jumper. I just find that really interesting. Never saw the professor in a black polo neck jumper again, but just interesting that Silvestri puts him in one. Anyway, back to the story. Another classic trope of Silvestri, a Dutch angle, a slight Dutch angle, just to keep things interesting there. And Wolverine, he's back in his memories. The door slams closed, and he asks Jean, what are you getting at? He's trying to tell you to back off, says Jean. Your memory has been tampered with by experts, and they've set traps throughout your mind. Open a few too many wrong doors and the damage could be immense. You might find yourself reverting. And she starts to stutter over it, and he fills in, what, I could become an animal again, Jean? Isn't that something that doesn't know where it came from? Same difference. And she implores him, this could really hurt you, Logan. And he replies, pain and me are old buddies. I gotta see this one out. So where is this going? So he's down in a basement, and he hears a voice, Sabretooth's, and he climbs up this stairway. I remember it now. It's across the river, Windsor, Ontario. And we saw this location in the previous issue. Me, Sabretooth, and Mastodon were on and up. So this is the aftermath of the op. All of the anarchists are dead, and the only one left alive is Silver Fox. And here we've got Sabretooth beating her up. And Wolverine comes in and says, "Back off, Sabretooth, just let her be." And here we see him crunching with his boot or shoe the spectacles there of the Professor, because this guy, the leader, looked a lot like the Professor from Experiment X. So we see a really maniacal look on Sabretooth. He's enjoying slapping the girl around. "What? You want some of this action?" He says to Wolverine, "Be my guest, pard, because in this scenario they're partners. I gotta go call the cleaners. Can't be having the local gendarmerie stumble over our handiwork, even if we have an under-the-table agreement with Ottawa." So, I mean, all of this is implying, what I said earlier, or what I commented on earlier when Sabretooth was thought Logan was joking about them being Canadian. This is implying that they're not Canadian, that they're working, or rather that they're working for an American covert agency, and they've got some agreement with Ottawa, with the Canadian government, to operate on Canadian soil. So that's interesting. That's intriguing. "Let's go, Mastodon," he says to this big guy here with the shotgun. The girl's cuffed tight, and her pals are deader than Trotsky, because of course they were communist anarchist types. "Whoa, back up half a sec," says Logan. "Didn't we all get shot full of holes in this cluster foul up? And we saw that in the previous issue." So Sabretooth just humps there and rips open the shirts to reveal bulletproof vests. "All you got to worry about is stopping a slug with your face." Mastodon says, "That could only help a mug like Logan. I mean, Wolverine's, huh? Let's go. Scarce. Let's get scarce, Mastodon. We want to give the little hairy fireplug plenty of time to quote-unquote interrogate the prisoner." So Sabretooth walks off with Mastodon laughing. And now, what's Logan going to say to this woman that looks a lot like Silver Fox? "Don't you know me, Silver Fox?" he asks. So we got this nice three-quarter profile close-up on her face. And she says, "Sure, I know you. You're Logan." And she's smiling. So is this going to be Silver Fox, the one he remembers? "You remember?" he asks. And she acts all familiar with them. "Sure I do. Come here," she says to him, "baby." And then he replies, "Darling, is this memory real?" But we see this look on her face. Then that terrible thing that happened at the cabin was a lie. This must be the truth. The smell of her hair, the touch of her fingers. And where is she reaching for with that hand? Is it a gesture of caress or something else? And what he's referring to here, the terrible thing that happened in the cabin, was implied in Wolverine number 10, that Sabretooth killed her, but that he assaulted her carnally in advance. I don't want to get the video in trouble by using a certain word, but I think you know what I mean. So let's continue. I have this book as well. This is an excellent book. Let's see here. "Do you remember the cabin? Our cabin?" he asks her, but she's reaching for his holstered gun. "Do you remember it in winter with the icicles hanging from the eaves?" And here we see a calendar on the floor, "Scenic, wild and beautiful Alberta." And just what he's describing there is the picture of the cabin from the calendar. "Yeah, it looked like a picture in a calendar," she says. "We had a dog, Old Blue," he says. "One day he came home foaming at the mouth, and you had to. Do you remember what happened on my birthday?" This is Wolverine number 10. "That couldn't have happened because this is years later and you're still alive." And now she's pulled the handgun on him, has it pointed up under his chin. "That's right, pig, and you're dead." But it's been emptied of bullets. And I love this panel where he's just looking at her. And he says then, "I emptied both guns into the Professor over there. Do you remember that?" So the confusion is ramping up here. There's the Professor on the ground, but she sees him as Andre. So he looks a bit different, but the smashed glasses are those of the Professor. "Who's the Professor?" she asks. And he replies, "Same guy. He's lying in that pool of blood next to that calendar. That's it. That's our cabin, he exclaims. Is this some kind of cruel joke? Am I supposed to believe that the tiny shreds of happy memories I have are based on a cheap calendar painting? It don't wash, he exclaims. I remember the way the late afternoon sun turned the inside bright orange and brought out red highlights in your hair. This is really good dialogue from Hama, really good stuff. You really get the sense that Logan is hanging on to those memories. He needs them to be real. It would be just awful if they were fake. You don't remember any of this, do you? He pops his claws there. You're one of those implants. You're nothing but smoke. And she says, I'd rather take my chances with that saber-tooth creep. You're a Looney Tune. So this is awful. Like, this is the trap that the professor was warning Logan about. This is sending him nuts. Is this all fake? What will I find behind these walls? So he rips at the wall and he just sees the cosmos. Nothing. This room, the tenement building, this is just a stage set cobbled together out of magazine clippings and somebody else's imagination. Some of what I remember has got to be real, he insists. Look at how shredded his suit is now compared to here, and these thorns are emerging up out of the ground. Now it's my bones. They're burning up, the heat, the pain, the fire inside. White hot thorns poking through a world of ice. So he calls out Silver Fox, no, don't take her away. She has to show me the truth. Show me, as he covers his eyes. Show me. This is really good stuff. This is a really interesting development of what Barry Windsor Smith suggested in the very last chapter of Weapon X, that Logan's mind had been tampered with by the program, that one couldn't tell what was true, what was false. And we saw in that last issue this thorn imagery as well. All the pain of his mixed up memories symbolized in the thorns. And then we see him out in the woods, which is also where Barry Windsor Smith left him at the very end of the Weapon X storyline. But in one of the earlier chapters, Wolverine faced, as Experiment X, as Weapon X, a bear out in the woods. And we're seeing that replayed here. And we're getting dialogue that recalls the dialogue between the Professor, Dr. Cornelius, and Hines. Fade in, threat sent, overlay from track 4, readings, heart rate steady, respiration normal, alpha is off the graph. So Logan is still focused on Silver Fox. Are you in there in the tree? In the tree? And something emerges, these claws. Yeah, but what's he seeing? Direct input into all sensory centers at full level. He's had the scent and the auditory. Now he's got the visual. So looks like Silver Claw. That's an interesting kind of slip there. That Silver Fox, we still see her tied to the radiator, but here she is emerging as this bear, this clawed bear. He sees the bear, all the sensory input adds up to it. Adrenal rise with carpal flux. So that's the claws. They've been extruded. Does he see the bear the way we want him to see it? We feed him in infrared targeting scan. Keeps him off balance, jacks up the stress, and enhances the illusion of outside control. So here's the infrared view of the bear that he's seeing. We have full claw extrusion. He's going for it. Good solid strike. Do we have a time on that? Can we juice up the killing stimulus and lock it? We have the TSI standing by. Affirmative, this is it. This is our switch. Once we lock it in with the TSI, we can turn on Weapon X at will. So this is a key moment of the Experiment X program that would allow them to control Logan with triggers. And we're getting to see it here. How about turning him off? That's what Shiva is for. So again, we're getting some clues about what this Shiva business might amount to. Show me, says Logan. He pulls off the goggles, the infrared goggles, and he gets a shock. He sees his own decapitated head on the ground. So when he decapitated the bear, it's his own head on the ground. And meanwhile, the dialogue continues. Stand by. We have traumatic shock imprint. So this is the shock. Seeing his own head on the ground. No way. I'm not buying this one. Levels too low. Not imprinting. He's not that shocked. He's skeptical. What's happened to the bear, he asks. Feed in the backups, plural, all of them. So now he sees his headless body standing up there with the guns. That's supposed to be me. Is this supposed to scare me? Pile on the trauma, drack up the fear center. We need an imprint, declares the off-panel technicians. Push the envelope. He has a high pain threshold. Takes a licking and keeps on ticking. So now he's surrounded by wranglers. You throw down on me, I'll put you in a world of hurt, he says. Wrong tack, physical trauma won't work. Right, what have we got on mental anguish? The girl again. Silver Fox? That's the reference to Silver Fox? Or the father? So, is this Hama undoing what he had implied in earlier issues? That there is no blood relation between Victor Creed, Sabretooth and Wolverine that was established by S.H.I.E.L.D. But what's going on here? This dialogue suggests that Sabretooth is his father, perhaps. Or is it that they're playing around with the idea already established that Logan would believe that Sabretooth is his father? It's confusing. In any case, the technician says, bring him back. I don't care what he said. This is too much. It'll take a few seconds. And this again is sophisticated stuff from Hama. So this dialogue of the Experiment X technicians begins to morph into dialogue from the professor and Jean, who are observing all of this. Bring him back. I don't care what he said. This is too much. It's Jean saying that, and then the professor responding, it'll take a few seconds to kick in, Jean. He should be coming out of it. So the Wranglers turn into visions of Jean, which calms Logan down. And then here in the real world, in the actual X-Mansion, or rather the underground part of it, right about now, the professor injects something into Logan's shoulder. Please make a note, Jean. He required 10 times the normal dosage. So whatever that concoction is, Logan was deep in those traumatic memories. Quickly, do you know who you are? Logan, Wolverine, he says. Who am I and where are we? Asked the professor. You're Professor Xavier and we're in the X-Mansion? In the Psi Lab. So that's where all of this took place. But look, he's wrecked it. So the professor says what used to be the Psi Lab. Unfortunately, our restraints were not adamantium. So Logan's not happy. You brought me back too soon. I was just about to find out more about Silver Fox and more about my father. So Jean tries to calm him down, says, don't blame the professor. I made him stop it. I couldn't stand to see you that way. I need to know. So Logan is determined to find out about his past. And the professor responds here, Jean's judgment was entirely emotional, but mine was wholly rational. I think if we had allowed you to continue, you would have gone over the edge into utter madness. As it is, there was probably considerable damage, resulting in a possible reversion to a more antisocial state. So Logan's going to translate that on the last page, or the almost last page. No way, I don't feel any different. Take your hands off me, darling, he says to Jean. You saying I could become an animal again? There is the professor was starting to say, possibility, and Logan protests. But he protests in a fashion that seems to prove that he is reverting to an animal. By the way, this page inked by Hilary Barta for sure. Much prefer Dan Green's inks over Silvestri's pencils. I'll never be an animal again. He insists, I'm Logan, I'm human, not an animal, not a Wolverine. And Jean says, you can't just stop being what you are. I'm an X-Man, he insists, not an animal. Gotta get out of here, gotta get some air. So this is implying that some damage was done by going into those memories. And he rides off on his motorbike. And we get overlaid on him riding away from the X-Mansion a phone call. And it's from Hines of the Weapon X program. And she's got a little code phrase that she uses, or scenario that she uses, that gets her through to who is it except for the professor, who is in an office in Washington DC. And Hines tells the professor she's been observing Logan. Sir, he's very disturbed. I think he may have found a way to bypass the programming. He could stumble onto something that could endanger the entire project. So Experiment X is ongoing, is the implication here. The professor responds, Situation analysis is my job, Hines. Yours is merely observation. And that really is the character of the Professor as established in Weapon X, in Barry Windsor Smith's Weapon X, as condescending, supercilious, arrogant. Hines insists, Professor, we're talking about finding out the truth. Him finding out the truth. Impossible, Hines, says the Professor. All the revealed strings of his memory lead only to a dead end called Shiva. And Shiva's only purpose is to kill him. So there was an implant in Logan's memories, should he ever unravel the secrets of Experiment X, that it would unleash this Shiva scenario, and we'll find out what that's all about in the next issue, a double-sized 50th issue. So letters page here, and a little image from Peter David and Andy Hubert's Wolverine Reign of Terror bookshelf edition. They really flogged that one in the Wolverine title, and I haven't read it. I don't have a copy of it. Must get my hands on it. So there you go. I do hope that you enjoyed this review and commentary on Wolverine number 49. Some great artwork by Marc Silvestri and an intriguing, mind-bending look at Logan's messed up memories, with Larry Hama building on Barry Windsor Smith's work in Weapon X. Let me know your thoughts on this in the comment section. If you enjoyed my review and commentary, please like and share the video. It really does help the channel. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more content like this.